a team member, as they're mastering the current role, they can see a role far away and have ideas of what success look like for that role. But it's really important for us to outline key competencies so that team members understand and see what they cannot see from their current seat and allow them to continue to explore in a safe way that also honors team members and tries to mitigate as much as possible that resentment type of experience.
How does EVRMA handle retention? You're going through the same problems that everybody else is, aren't you? It is hard to keep really good people. EVRMA has a lot of people. So how do they do it? They meet with their practice operators twice a month. All the practice operators from all the EVRMA practices in North America, they meet. What do they talk about? Well, one of the things that they talk about is how they retain their people. What did they come up with? I talk with their chief operating officer, Iris González. She talks about retention of personnel. She talks about the dyad leadership style that RMA employs, not just at the top level, but in all of their regions and practices. She talks a little bit about their physician meetings and nursing boot camps. She talks about backup solutions that RMA has to make sure that they don't just have to fill a vacancy for the sake of filling it. She talks about something that RMA just implemented at the end of 2025 or finished implementing, which are patient advisory councils. She talks about how they filter and implement the feedback from these patient advisory councils. And you know what one of their biggest pain points was, these patients? The financial counseling process. What did RMA do? Now, instead of financial counselors just reporting to their local practice manager, they report to a team that runs all of the financial counselors for all of the practices. And Iris shares some of the methods that they've implemented that help them to retain and delight patients. Iris also shares how RMA tripled their response. So it wasn't just that they went from 8 or 8.5 on the Net Promoter Score to 9. It's that they tripled the number of people that filled out the bloody surveys. And we all struggle to do that, don't we? How did RMA do it? Iris González explains. Also share a little story about Mendel's Pharmacy and a clinic that was really happy with them. A note from a clinic from a patient, because everybody loves working with Mendel's. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Iris González, Chief Operating Officer at IVI RMA North America.
If you like the information in this episode, we're compiling so much more data on new technology in IVF, products, services, market analyses, info on mergers and acquisitions, and data on every company in the fertility space. Go to data.insidereproductivehealth.com. If your company isn't an IVF Heroes Universe sponsor, your competitors are so much more visible to your customers because we report on your category and we give that info to your customers. Go to data.insidereproductivehealth.com to learn more about other fertility companies or submit your company today. Don't be left out.
Today's advertiser helped make the production and delivery of this episode possible for free to you. But the themes expressed by the guests do not necessarily reflect the views of Inside Reproductive Health, nor of the advertiser. The advertiser does not have editorial control over the content of this episode, and the guest's appearance is not an endorsement of the advertiser.
Ms. González, Iris, welcome to the Inside Reproductive Health podcast.
Griffin, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to our conversation and chat today.
What's the hardest part about retaining and recruiting people at a company the size of IVI RMA?
It's a great question, Griffin. Certainly for us, what we're constantly mining for and thinking about is not just having a conversation with a candidate in front of us for the opportunity to get in our doors today, but also thinking about how can we help retain our talent, retain team members that are joining our community so that not only are they having a satisfying career and job in the moment, but they can build a meaningful career with us. So as we grow, they can continue to grow as well.
So you got to sell them a little bit on what's in it for them. How are you vetting them? What are some of the things that you're doing to make sure that they're going to be a good fit for the organization?
Yeah, I think to your point, Griffin, that as we are having conversations with candidates, it's a two-way process. So just as we are interviewing them, we recognize that candidates are also interviewing us. And so for us, what we're screening for and really thinking about are three critical areas: character, and so that's mission fit, mission orientation, it's competence, your technical skills, your technical capability. And third is culture or chemistry fit. We're really deliberate and thoughtful around being clear around what kind of team members are really going to succeed with us. And for us, it's pretty clear. It's team members who are exhibiting behaviors are aligned with our organizational values of excellence, of research, and of world-class clinical outcomes. And so as long as we're having conversations and interviewing with candidates there, I think that helps create that transparency early on as well, so that we can make both ways mutually informed decisions.
People will probably want me to ask about things you do to retain docs and embryologists, but for my own curiosity, I'm more curious about the people on your path in the accountability chart, the operations people, from practice managers to other areas of ops, how you're vetting, training, developing those kinds of people, because I have come to believe that true operations people are few and far between, that many of them are either consultants, like they can tell you and they can even see the problem and they can describe it, but operations is about operationalizing. You have to make it come to life every day, and that's totally different than just being a consultant. And then the other camp that people often fall in is they're project managers. Like they can manage projects effectively, like they're reliable, they'll cross the thing off the to-do list and they'll make sure the dates are on time, but often they'll just project manage chaos. They won't actually improve the system. That they'll be focused on the delivery, the fulfillment of what they're supposed to do, but then they fail to really operationalize and instill better systems. How do you vet and develop those kinds of people?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and I really appreciate how you outline that, Griffin. Start with first things first. For practice operators within EVRMA, done a really good job at identifying the competencies that are required in order to be successful in the role. And those competencies that inform our selection process. How do we interview? How do we set expectations? How do we provide clarity on what good looks like? All of that has been pressure tested and informed by physician leaders across the organization, as well as team members and leaders in various roles in our organization that have been here for a lot longer than me, have all helped to pressure test, to inform. We also spend time, like for example, I hold bi-weekly basis a national practice operator meeting. And so creating a collaborative space where we can ask questions, be curious together, and build a safe place where team members can learn from each other allows me then to see leading practices, leading ways of working that then I can build systems of scale for how can we repeat and select or onboard, train, develop talent to be successful. And we do that. We can say that's for practice operators. We have a phenomenal nursing boot camp program. We have phenomenal best-in-class lab leadership programming. So, and we're building it out more and more. We have a fantastic Chief Human Resource Officer, Tracy Ward, who joined us recently over the last 6 months. So we are really taking the opportunity to codify it and scale it further. Our ambition and intent is that will be well-defined selection process informed from team members and experts who have done the work. Like my own background, I grew through operations, owning and running clinics into multi-site leadership, so that we can make sure that no matter the entry point or no matter the role, we feel really good that every single team member has a clear selection path and development path that creates for them optionality for how they can also grow with us as an organization.
The National Practice Operators Meeting, is that practice managers, and is it practice managers of different RMA practices? Is it every manager of every practice? Tell me more about that meeting.
Yeah, it's every single practice operator, whether you're an administrator, manager, director, for every single one of our practices in North America. So Canada and the United States all participate, edge to edge United States.
Every week?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. How many people are on that meeting?
So it's a great question. So we'll have 16 field leaders across one representing each one of our markets. And then we also have a cadre of what we call home office leaders as well. So sometimes that might be our CFO, our CCO, our Chief Commercial Officer. It might be Dr. Molinaro. It might be Tracy Ward, who I just referenced, depending on the topic. That forum is really designed not just for deep dive curiosity questions that are facilitating agreements on how we can unify our ways of working and learn from each other, but they're also forums where we want to add value to our practice operators and develop their skill set and develop their capabilities in a meaningful way as well.
What do you guys talk about?
We could talk about everything under the sun, Griffin, from, niche patient population opportunities. Talk to me about how we're handling this type of patient and what has worked well to provide them individualized care. What might, we are running into a stumbling block around recruiting X type of talent. What are ways in which we can be creative to push through that? We have new enhancements rolling out in our proprietary EMR. Let's make sure that you understand all of the value that we have added to you and your teams on a day-to-day basis so you can maximize the usage of that. We might talk about patient sentiment, patient experience, insights that we're seeing on a North America basis or regionalized differences. We could talk about scheduling. We could talk about competitors in the marketplace. So really, it's to fortify and double down on strengths that our practice operators have, and also support them in asking bigger questions to open up their aperture and their own leadership so that we can also support them in again maximizing the impact that they can make in their practices.
Of the different buckets of problems that you all talk about and solve together, recruitment, retention, maybe patient recruitment, EMR stuff, that whole gamut, what would you say, which bucket do you find to be the most common pain points that practice operators are facing? It's their people, isn't it?
100%. 100%. It's retention. It's, hey, I have so-and-so talent specific role that's leaving for 25 cents extra, a dollar extra to a hospital type of environment. So recruitment is certainly the number one area of focus for our teams and for myself included.
It's hard to find good people, they say, and getting good people that you work with at multiple different levels is key, which is why people like Independent Clinic, Star Independent Clinic, Carolina Conceptions is working with good people, not just inside, but everywhere that their organization touches. They sent an email to one of their payers that was from one of their patients because they were fighting for the freedom of choice for their pharmacy partners. Carolina Conception sent this email. I received all my medications from Mendel's for around $5,300. The same prescriptions were nearly $10,000 at one pharmacy and over $7,000 at another. Even with insurance, Mendel's saved me thousands of dollars and preserved my insurance benefits. That practice sent that to that payer and talked about Mendel's in that way because that's what happens when you partner with a pharmacy that actually advocates for your patients because they're good people fighting for good people, and it makes life easier for your nurses who are also good people. Mendel's helps fertility clinics simplify workflows, lower costs, and deliver better patient care without the red tape. See what they can do for your team at mendelspharmacy.com or reach out to me and I'll be happy to make the intro. That's mendelspharmacy.com. So it's hard to get good people, but it's also the expression of it's hard to find good people is only part true. It's hard to attract and to retain good people because they've got tons of options. There's not that many good people out there relative to our needs. I don't care what anybody says. Most businesses do not deliver an exceptional product. It is really, really hard to deliver an exceptional product or service. So therefore, most of us are probably mediocre at our jobs. And to be really, really good, there's only so many people in the talent pool that are, but they are out there, but they got options. And so you were talking about how do we retain them? Well, first let's stick with that issue. What solutions have you come up with that it's like, yeah, we can pay them $1 more an hour, but then somebody else out there is just going to offer $1 more after that. And you can only climb that tree for so high. What have you found that's been effective?
Yeah. And Griffin, I couldn't agree with you more. Just fantastic talent has options. And so this has been well studied. I think I've been tackling or thinking about and executing on this question for the last 15 years. And so this more and more, the picture becomes so very clear that fantastic candidates and potential teammates need to feel a sense of connection and care more often than not to their direct supervisor and to their organization that builds a sense of connection, not just for the here and now and the job that's in front, but to feel connection and care for the possibility of what's ahead. I think that it requires leadership, again, at every single level that we might have at IVI RMA, to be clear on helping to understand how we want to personally and professionally connect with our team. We need to understand what motivates them. We need to understand their own professional career ambitions 5 years out, 10 years out. And we then, as a leader, have the responsibility to build out deliberate career development plans that are leveraging a team member's unique strengths of today and helps them stretch and build experiences where it's helping them increase their readiness for the next opportunity. So I think I'll pause there.
Well, this administrative and operational background that you're describing is so necessary for retaining people, isn't it? And that is a challenge for single doc groups. And I do like what's happening in terms of there have been many doctors the last year or two that have said, you know what, I'm going to try my own thing. And they start their own practice. And I think many of them will do a good job. But I think even if you're just trying to be a boutique group and you're trying to be a single doc group with 8 employees, if you lose one of those employees, life is hard. If you lose 2 or 3 of those employees, that could put you out of business ultimately. And it could really mess things up for your patients, etc. And I think we're just in a day and age now where people need that sort of career development, that there's a certain HR and administrative background that employees, if not expect, they need it. And maybe it wasn't that way 30 years ago, that you could have kind of cobbled it together and just focused on delivering the product that time ago. But now employees need that administrative HR resource, SOP library, career development pathway spelled out for them, or else you're just fighting against the wind.
Completely agree. I think also we can't make assumptions that just, for example, we bring a team member in through the doors and they're a REI nurse, that inherently that means that they want to become a nurse lead, nurse manager, nurse director. We need to paint to them also conversations early on to understand what really has them curious, what has them operating in a flow state that brings out their best, and then painting the picture for them that yes, you can pursue that specialized path, but also for us as an organization, here are other options and pathways that you can also grow more broadly as a leader and within your own skill set and capability. And I'll say, Griffin, for us as an organization that we have been in existence for more than 30 years, we have so many wonderful examples of team members who started off in the front lines, whether REI nurse and now one of our national leaders over clinic operations, or we have a team member who started off as a compliance analyst and now they're supporting and leading all of our national operations on the corporate side. We have so many examples, practice to practice and organizationally of how we have cared for and nurtured team members to build meaningful, long-lasting careers with us.
And so in that career development pathway, does it also include like, here's what success looks like and does not look like? Because I imagine that you also have people that say, oh, I want that job over there. And maybe they're not the best fit. And so you need to be able to clearly show them, hey, so-and-so, in order for you to get this position over here, you're going to need to do A, B, and C. And I think if you don't have A, B, and C spelled out really clearly, that's where I see a lot of resentment happening because people feel like they got passed over and what the heck, I've hustled for you and you hired this outsider and that's a promotion that I saw coming to me. And I think in the absence of having these are the outcomes that this role has to be able to deliver in order for us to feel confident that you're the person to deliver those outcomes. In your current seat, you have to deliver outcomes A, B, and C. Does your path include something like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Griffin. It's so important to do this early on in a team member as they're mastering the current role that they're occupying, and they can see a role far away or close to them and have ideas of what it takes and what does success look like for that role. But it's really important for us to outline key experiences that help accelerate the readiness for that role. It's also really important for us to outline key competencies, whether that's the ability to plan and align, whether that's the ability to have situational adaptability, whether that's the ability to really attract top talent, whatever the core competencies are, so that team members get a bit more transparency early on to understand and see what they cannot see from their current seat, and then therefore be able to discern and have a self-reflection and conversations with themselves to say, ooh, does that continue to intrigue me? Does that continue to honor my own interest in something that I want to continue to pursue? Or does that transparency allow me to have clarity and say, actually, I thought I wanted that role, but I don't, and allow them to continue to explore, again, in a safe way that also honors team members and tries to mitigate as much as possible that resentment type of experience.
When managers are talking about people as being among their biggest challenge, are they talking about just retention, or are they also talking about just getting people to do the darn job? Because at the Association for Reproductive Managers meeting 2 years ago, I want to say it was, there was a panel and everybody was in the room was just nodding and everybody was saying the same thing, which is like, we just can't get people to just do the most basic stuff, like show up for work, like not be hungover in front of a patient, like to have basic professionalism with their coworkers. And so they were all talking about, many of them use an agency for virtual assistants from the Philippines because they're like, we get way better service from these folks. We can train them better. They're better team members. And meanwhile, we can't get somebody in Chicago, paying somebody $35 an hour to do the same, and they just will like not come to work on the second day. Are they facing those challenges? And what do you do about those kinds of challenges?
Yeah, we're not facing those type of challenges, Griffin, but I think this is what goes back to, our philosophy is, yes, we have a vacancy, but we don't want to fill a vacancy with the first available human that can fill the seat. We want to be really mindful and deliberate around tapping all available avenues in order to help start conversations with the right team members that are going to positively impact our community. It allows us to deliver patient-centered care. So we try as much as possible from the very onset, out of the blocks with our recruitment team, to screen out team members that perhaps are or candidates, I should say, that are looking for a job, and trying to align as much as possible team members and candidates that are looking for a meaningful, long-lasting career with us.
That presumes a certain depth and cross training that you have in your team, though, in order to be able to absorb that, doesn't it? Because I hear what you're saying. You don't want to fill a vacancy just for the sake of filling a vacancy. And I think that's really important. I think that I have also taken that to an extreme sometimes where it's like you're hurting the rest of the team by not putting people in other seats. And so I think it's a luxury to be able to get ahead to where you then start to have a bench of players and you have people cross trained, because then you are in a better position to make smart personnel decisions with regard to advancement, hiring, firing, and not necessarily endure all of the consequences that come with it. But it's hard to get there. And I liken it to, okay, you don't necessarily need 53 people on a football team, that the total roster space, in order to win a football game. But you do need 11 at a time, because if you don't have 11 on the field, you ain't going to win the game. And so how do you balance the not wanting to fill a seat for the sake of filling it with making sure that the rest of your team isn't absorbing all of the stress and overwork because of that vacancy?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Griffin. And the crux or the major part of this opportunity is we have to invest in our leaders, just as we do today, to help make sure that they have meaningful connection with their direct reports, whether that's in structured one-on-ones, whether that's in team huddles on a frequent basis, so that they can understand and get a sense for their team, every individual, to say who's doing well, who's thriving, succeeding, who might be struggling in their role and need some coaching support, and we hope that seldom that there are the surprise vacancies that occur. And in that leadership process, we want our direct supervisors to manage up and have those proactive conversations. So as much as possible, we are starting and activating our recruitment process earlier than, hey, just until we're caught in a vacant hole, number one. And so looking for evergreen recs for core roles within our clinic or outside of our clinic, so we always have an active pipeline to support us, I think is really important. The second piece is helping to ensure, and we do this really well in our smaller practices, in our smaller clinics, inherently with the size of the team, we're going to see some overlap and some cross-training, so that you have, instead of specialization that happens more often when we are becoming a larger practice or becoming a larger market, and we leverage those strengths as well. And then the third piece is having transparent accountability conversations with our local leaders to making talent acquisition process a time-bound conversation, so that we don't over-index on I need to wait for perfection, and we also don't under-index and just hire the first person that comes in front of us. We really want to support and facilitate the right matchmaking process, because that's what's going to lend itself for tenure, for experience, for repetitions in our ecosystem, that helps create a win-win situation for everybody involved. That teammate, the team that they're participating and contributing to, and certainly to the patients that they're in service to as well.
So you got a full recruitment pipeline, you've got cross training, you're empowering the managers. Do you have any services to act as like a third string, like locum agencies or per diem agencies or virtual assistant agencies or anything like that? One thing that I like about being a remote only company, and I know that many of the people in the brick and mortar audience can't do this, but I'm able to use independent contractors and part-time W-2s more frequently than most brick and mortar places are. And that allows me to have more redundancy than I otherwise would for being a company this size. And so you can have a second and a third string, and it makes life so much better. Even if that person isn't going to be the ultimate solution, at least buys you some time without burdening the rest of the team. Do you have anything like that for a third string? Can brick and mortar practices do that?
We do. So a couple of different prongs that we have there, Griffin. Number one is we continue to and lean in with our practice teams and ask them, sort of curiously what are the kind of work that they're doing on a day-to-day basis that might not be patient impacting face to face, but it enables patient care within our practice. And so we'll centralize that, and we can have centralized teams that are local within the United States. And then we'll also have virtual assistants, certainly as a safety net in a backup. We will also have a different recruitment and search firms depending on the role. And that's where Tracy coming into our organization is doing a phenomenal job at assessing for vendors that may be able to bring us talent if our local internal teams are struggling in a particular market or in a particular role. And so we feel pretty confident in those areas, and one that we're always challenging ourselves at the leadership level to making sure that we can identify hotspots early and then find backup solutions to help mistake proof for our practice teams. We certainly want them to be focused at the top of their capabilities day in and day out on delivering and providing fantastic patient care, and then also wanting to operate without any single points of failure within our ecosystem as well.
When you're molding leaders, I've gotten to know Lynn and Tom a little bit this last year or two. And first, when I interviewed Lynn Mason, and she's like, I've got this relationship with Tom, and we have a really close leadership style. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, like everybody says that. But I don't want to embarrass either of them, but getting to know each of them just a little bit over this last year or two, I really perceive it to be genuine. I really perceive it to be these are two people that care what the other one thinks, that really want to support each other, that really want to extend that to the rest of the team. Are there behaviors that you can see in there that you can teach your team to mimic, so that like you can teach your practice managers to have that type of relationship with their doctors? What specific behaviors are they, and how do you develop them?
Yeah, 100%, Griffin. This goes back, and the relationship between Lynn and Dr. Molinaro certainly is very, very genuine and sincere. I would say for us as a executive team, we're all talking to each other every day, just around the clock in different forums and different mediums. And we try to operate as much as possible under the philosophy of role modeling the behaviors that we want to continue to nurture and cultivate to our regional teams, to our home office team, and then support them in cascading that down and role modeling those behaviors down to the practice level from again, practice operator to medical directors, from the regional vice presidents to the regional medical director, and their extending leadership team up to the executive level.
What do you think is next for your team that you haven't implemented yet that you want to in the next 6 months?
Yeah, it's a great question, Griffin. Think for that, myself and my team, we would be honest and sincere to saying we have lots of ideas operationally around how we can continue to support the practices. One thing that we were able to put a feather in our cap in at the tail end of 2025 was actually standing up the first of its kind, at least from what we know in North America, patient advisory councils for both the United States and for Canada. And these councils are made up of patient representatives from every single one of the markets in which we deliver care to, that come together in this governing council that we're actually using to help prioritize operational priorities, so that when we're saying that we're delivering patient-centered care, this is an area where we're going to enhance and accelerate that further.
How do you channel the feedback that you get from those advisory councils? Because on one hand, patients are the most important people to listen to, period. And on the other hand, they've never run a fertility center before. So they have insights that we have to listen to. But sometimes people can give feedback about things that I, as a student, might give feedback about the school district that I went to, but I've never been a teacher. I've never been a principal. I don't know how property taxes fund the school district. I don't know any of that stuff. So it's like, yes, there's a lot of important feedback that I could give, but you need to channel it in such a way that you're not just working on random suggestions. How do you channel the feedback?
Yeah, that's a great question, Griffin. So We have socialized it really well internally across our team in North America, and we ask our teams to share their curiosities. What are ways that in priorities and areas of work that they're working on that they would like some patient insight, patient feedback, patient prioritization on? And then we'll raise that to the council so that they can help refine, pressure test, give us nuance that sometimes us looking at it every day may miss out on. So we try to give structure on the controllables so that we can really maximize the feedback that our patient advisory council is giving. That also makes them feel centered and important, and that we're not just asking for feedback and putting in a vacuum, but certainly that's one that can be actionable. So I'll give you a perfect example of this. We have our centralized contact center team. It's a mixed hybrid of team members within the United States, as well as some virtual assistants that help with scheduling of patient care. There's an important conversation to be had with this advisory council of the importance and the implications of who is answering the phone if they're a prospective patient to support them in scheduling their first appointment. Do they see it? Do they experience that as a commodity? And it really doesn't matter whether you give it to me on a patient portal and I can self-schedule, or it doesn't matter to me if I'm calling from someone out of the country, or no, I actually see this as an impressionable, meaningful moment in my experience and in my trust building process. That kind of differentiation and nuance in the conversation is a helpful example of how we can really maximize a patient advisory council and then support us in operationally enhancing patient-centered care.
If you want to know why so many clinics fight to work with Mendel's Pharmacy, here's a perfect example. One of the partner clinics, Carolina Conceptions, recently had to push back on a payer who was trying to limit pharmacy choice. Instead of backing down, they shared a real patient email that made the case for Mendel's loud and clear. The patient priced out the exact same medications, 3 pharmacies. Mendel's came in around $5,300. One pharmacy was nearly $10,000. The other was $7,000, even with insurance. It's all because Mendel's did the extra legwork for that patient. They saved her thousands and helped preserve her benefits. That's what Mendel's does every day. They advocate for patients, protect their budgets, and take stress off already overloaded nurses and stressed patients. They're more than a pharmacy. They're a partner that keeps treatment moving smoothly without the runaround, without the red tape. So if you want your team and your patients to get that kind of gold level service, then you want to reach out to Mendel's. Visit mendelspharmacy.com, or you can reach out to me. I'll be happy to make an intro. It's mendelspharmacy.com. So when you're working with these types of improvements that involve the patient experience, there is often a counter need, which is just delivering the service that needs to be delivered today. Like, we have to deal with the patients in front of us today. We don't have time to implement this new technology. How do you manage the needs of improving the system behind the delivery with the overburdened people that are just trying to get through their own day as busy as can be?
Yeah, it's such a great point that you make, Griffin. This is where it's really important for ourselves, myself included, as a leadership team, to spend time in clinics. We need to be able to certainly review the data that we can see from a national and organizational perspective, and then have the appropriate leadership acumen, so to speak, in order to be able to know, man, I need to put myself in a suitcase and I need to go travel to my Houston, Texas team. And I need to go put my scrubs on and I need to go spend some time shoulder to shoulder with my team so I can have an appreciation for what their day-to-day looks like, even with the improvements that we're making, and really see where those blockages are. So then we can hit the just do it's, the quick wins, the things that we can help alleviate their day-to-day and instills trust. It instills the ability that they're going to continue to give us feedback as an example, but then also use it as an input back up through our leadership channels so that we can be mindful of including those experiences as part of that system continuous improvement.
Do you have to incentivize them?
Say more?
Do you have to incentivize them in some way to implement these things? Because today and this won't be the day I'm talking about the day we're recording, but on the day we're recording, Inside Reproductive Health published the state of clinical operational software. And then we have another category, state of patient concierge. And maybe those two things will come together. And we really want to spend a lot of time mapping out the different things that those different solutions do. But I know that there are so many tech solutions: Vena Health, Conceive, Frame, Berry, Levy Health, that work on the patient experience in different ways and automating parts of the patient journey, doing things for triage, automating communications. And I think some of them really, really do help. But I often find that people, even when people at your level, Edis, are like, yeah, we need to do this, that the managers are just dragging their feet because they're not incentivized to actually implement it. Do you need to account for that somehow in the compensation or the bonus structure, that people are focused on improving the bigger system, not just the little problem in front of them?
Such a great point, Griffin. I think two things. One is we feel pretty confident that we have an incentive structure that's aligned, that helps maximize. We want to help make sure that we can maximize your interest in supporting what's in front of you and the organization with your compensation. And so we have that as part of our sort of total rewards for team members. I think beyond that, it's really important as we're going to fantastic strategic partners, many of which we're in conversations that you mentioned, Griffin, that we're mindful of a couple distinctions. One is our practice teams that are living and breathing and feeling the experience on a day-to-day basis. They need to help prioritize where can we meaningfully build capacity for them and what's actually adding value versus what could be experienced as short and enhancement, but actually takes away some critical patient-facing time that they actually value a lot, and so does the patient. So that's a fine line, I think, to balance, to be mindful of. And again, this is where it's so critical to have our locals teams feedback as we continue to grow relationships with those thoughtful strategic partners.
You all use Net Promoter Score, and you use, I think, employee engagement surveys too, right? And it sounds like that you've had a turnaround, or an improvement, I should say, in the adoption rate, the completion rate of those. What happened and how did you do it?
Yeah, it's a great area of pride for us, Griffin. Generally speaking, in healthcare, you end up shooting for a great target. A great ambition is to have a Net Promoter Score between 80 to 85. Where we are at the end of 2025 is actually at a 90. And that's been by tripling our actual response rate during the same period. So we're hearing from more patients, and patients that we're hearing from are seeing or experiencing or feeling those improvements along the way. I actually read every single patient comment that comes either internally or externally in the system, because I think it's incredibly valuable to get as many sort of data points and experiences from our patients to recognize what we're doing well. So consistently across the board, patients share how fantastic our care teams are at engaging with them and giving them the warm welcome and being empathetic, at giving them that caring, individualized lens. And then there are areas where we also have opportunities for improvement. So a perfect example, patients are asking for more transparency in the cost and the financing process. And so that helps us, back to the question you just finished asking about strategic partners. It helps us connect dots between what our patients need and are asking for, and how we think about strategic partners that can help increase transparency early on in the process and can instill confidence and trust to our patients in that area.
It's impressive to go from 8 or 8.5 to 9, but I'm more impressed that you tripled the response rate. How did you do that?
Yeah. So in this one here, we did do an incentive. We essentially put together little laminate cards across every single one of our practices. And at the end of every patient that came through our doors, we asked them to respond to the survey, and we shared with them that on a monthly basis, we were going to give a nominal sort of gift card, just a random selection, just to help patients get into that normalization process of giving feedback. And for our teams, making our teams want to get the feedback is so helping for them to ensure that they understand that feedback is a gift. It gives us an opportunity to learn and reinforce what we're doing well, and also potentially seeing some of our blind spots so that we can be deliberate and thoughtful around how we could, again, handle the patient in front of us, but then also use it to inform how we could create a better informed system.
I bet you had to incentivize the team to do that too, right? To make sure that they were
Not at all.
actually, you didn't?
Not at all.
What did you do to motivate them or to get a difference in completion rate? Because
Yeah,
I've noticed that many times people just, they aren't doing that. Like they're supposed to give out the laminate card to the patient and there's a stack of laminate cards in a file cabinet somewhere.
yeah, it's a great point. So the laminate was just actually there as a visual aid, one in every single one of the clinics, not to distribute to our patients. It's just a visual cue to help remind our team members that we're in the clinic to ask for that survey or to ask for feedback, the gift of feedback. And then the other piece, I think the lever that really helped us was just adding a visual prompt within our patient portal app so that the patients would directly have the visual reminder in the app directly to respond to the survey.
If you pointed to one specific thing that raised your NPS score from I'm sure it was multiple things, but if you had to point to, if I'm only allowed to do one of those things again to get from 8 or 8.5 to 9, what was it?
It's a great question. The focus for us was on better transparency and better improvements on sort of our financial coordination, our financial counseling process.
Really? I would have thought
Yeah,
it would have been about calls back for pregnancy tests or getting results on time or that sort of thing. But that was the
to your point, Griffin, the opportunity was around communication. And when we niched down, just like if we would expect the same, whether it's from patients or within an internal organization, we always have the opportunity to communicate more and more. When we niched down to it, it was really around financial coordination process and timeliness or communication and support that made a patient feel like they had an individualized, thoughtful solution for them.
That's awesome. What did you do differently with your financial counselors?
So many things, of which include centralizing them. So instead of having every single one of our practice try to independently manage our financial coordinators, we centralize them under one leadership structure so that we can help unify scripting, collaboration, support them in a campaign where we called Pathway to Yes that completely changed the tone and the sentiment internally within the team so that they would really feel that sense of connection and care and impact to how they were meaningfully delivering or supporting patient care, I should say, to also giving them the confidence that they had the right knowledge-based information to navigate any potential objections, to feel that they were going to have the right leadership support, that, listen, listening to a call and doing some quality auditing is not a bad thing. Again, it's an opportunity for feedback where we could coach you on your strengths, acknowledge that, recognize that, and then give you some helpful tips to enhance your patient care interactions.
It's so smart so you're saying that they are they still in the clinics physically, the financial
Yes,
counselors, but instead of just saying like, okay, yeah, I report to Sally, the practice manager here, I report to Susie and who runs all of the financial counselors for EVRMA.
that's right.
How long
That's
did
right.
it take? How long to restructure that?
I did that parallel at the same time that we were standing up the regional dyad model. So it was over the course of 2025 where we were able to restructure it in phases. We have to pilot so we can show some proof of concept, help instill the confidence, make sure that we're socializing the wins that are happening, and then keep going. and it's had a lot of additional benefits. We've been able to see a reduction in turnover by more than 10%. So that means team members are staying with us longer. That means they're getting more experience, more exposure, more repetitions, so that they are able to deliver and meet the patient in front of them with all of that lived experience as well.
That is a boss move, Iris. I love that. I think it just makes so much more sense than reporting up to the practice manager. And it's something that if you're a really small practice, you don't have the luxury to be able to do that. But you were able to say, okay, we have all of these financial counselors. Did you end up hiring someone outside to manage all of them? Or was that person either a practice manager or a finance manager at one of your existing practices, and then you elevated that person?
Yeah, elevated a person who was they had started off as a practice manager in one of our larger clinics. So she had already deep experience on touching financial coordination and everything else under the sun within a practice. And so that was a fantastic win-win situation.
Boss move. The regional dyad though, that's what I was alluding to a little bit before with that's what Tom and Lynn have a little bit together. Tom Molinar, your chief medical officer, and Lynn
Hmm.
Mason, your chief executive officer. They've got that dyad relationship, and asking how you bring that down to other people. So you got the regional dyad, and it sounds like you were implementing something there. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So to that point, Griffin, organizationally at the very top level, it's Lynn and Dr. Molinaro. Internally within a day-to-day, our ecosystem and infrastructure, it's myself and Dr. Molinaro where we're operating together. And so we chat with each other every single day. Maybe it was less than 60 minutes ago where we were last connecting with each other, and we will shared processes or shared structure where we're aligning with each other on goals, on priorities that are fully informed by teams that have different reporting lines, but we're really deliberate in making sure that they are collaborating as much as possible. So it starts with myself and Dr. Molinaro having shared priorities that are informed by our practices, informed by our regional dyads, and informed by external market factors that we're also paying attention to. Then, therefore, and of course, that's fully informed by Lynn's organizational priorities for North America that are informed by our global priorities. But breaking that down, our regions then are having regional priorities that line back up, and then our practices have their priorities that line back up to those regional visions that roll back up to North America as well. So we have management process, management structure at play so that care teams can chat and connect with each other and align on a daily basis. Our practice teams can share their successes and their areas of improvement on a monthly basis. Our regionals share back on a quarterly basis. And so we are constantly receiving feedback around what's working well. So we're caring for the patients and teams that are in front of us and what's at hand and be prioritized, and also looking ahead and prioritizing and anticipating for the needs as well.
Let's say you were going to have someone come work for you that in 5 to 10 years was going to take over your job, be the COO, one of the largest fertility clinic networks in the world. What are you coaching him or her to do right now?
That's a great question, Griffin. And I'll tell you, I'm always succession planning. My leadership philosophy is that I'm always hiring teammates around me that are better than me in a particular functional area. And I think that that's an important piece that I'm also imparting with my teams all the way down again to the supervisor level. It helps us then give freely, give information freely, teach freely, and coach from a place of, if I coach my team and I have multiple options for a succession plan, that means that I then will have other opportunities to solve and to continue to make an impact in this industry that I otherwise cannot if I stay here and I become a bottleneck. So for my team, whether we're on the field side, the regional vice presidents that support and drive the regions, or for my home office leaders that I have supporting North America, It's teaching and it's coaching the ability to situationally adapt. So we might, for example, we have our North Star, we have a vision for what's ahead, and we might have gone through lots of rigor and lots of process in order to feel really confident about the big 3, the big 5 audacious goals. And we might have detailed it out to figuring out what are the key actions, activities, milestones, or results that are going to get us there. The ability to be situationally adaptable in order to constantly reinform that priority, or to say, this is not working well, this action, this activity that I thought was going to lead a result, the ability to be able to courageously let that go and to learn and to feel forward and to hear feedback from the team, to be able to adjust the game plan, call the audible for what's ahead, to support that team that I think, again, reinvigorates and doubles down on trust and doubles down on execution as well. So situation adaptability is a big one. I think a second area is helping the team to really be mindful for building systems that continue to honor patient care, that allows for individualization at the local level, but harnesses all of the incredible expertise from our network. So the ability to really facilitate dialogue and drive consensus or drive agreement to a particular direction is really important, because that fine line of scale just for scale's sake is not helpful for an organization. Healthcare is local. So you have to be able to identify where there are opportunities, but then be courageous enough to facilitate conversations to help us get to agreement and bring out the best of everybody. That puts us in win-win situations. So that's 2. The third one is a lens outward. We need to, the more that we're thinking about the landscape around us, the implications of fertility, how can we leave a legacy and a positive mark on the field of reproductive medicine? How is our patient population or potential population changing or thinking around family building, around care, around expectation setting? The more that we can understand these various external elements, I think, again, for leaders, it helps them in their own discernment process, their own prioritization process. And then 4th is a really important one. And it's at the beginning, or it's a theme here for our conversation, Griffin, which is it has to be someone who is tenacious towards talent development. We are patient-centered, but the real engine behind the delivery of reproductive medicine is through our talent. And so in my world, my aim is not just to build jobs, it's to help build enduring, meaningful careers that, for however long team members can contribute to our organization, that's fantastic. And more importantly, it's if they can continue to elevate and enhance the field of reproductive medicine, that's the big goal. So having team members that have that lens and that mindset would be my 4th, which is, to me, actually number 1.
They can't get to your level just by being doers. They can't even get to your level just by being leaders. They need to be leaders who can develop other leaders. There's 100 questions on my list that I wanted to ask you, 96 that I didn't get to. So I will have to have you back on, Iris, because it's been a pleasure to get to know you today. I hope you come back on the podcast in the next few months.
I would welcome the opportunity, Griffin. And again, I appreciate the time so much today.
Go to data.insidereproductivehealth.com. That's where we're compiling so much data on new technology in IVF, products and services, market analyses, info and mergers and acquisitions, every data point that we can on the field writ large and the companies in the fertility field, we're compiling there. Go to data.insidereproductivehealth.com as we build that over time. And if your company isn't an IVF Heroes Universe sponsorship, your competitors are getting more visibility because we report on your category and we give that to your customers. We do that multiple times per year, and we do it around big events like ASRM and ESHRE. Go to data.insidereproductivehealth.com and submit your company today. Don't be left out.
Today's advertiser helped make the production and delivery of this episode possible for free to you. But the themes expressed by the guests do not necessarily reflect the views of Inside Reproductive Health, nor of the advertiser. The advertiser does not have editorial control over the content of this episode, and the guest's appearance is not an endorsement of the advertiser. Thank you for listening to Inside Reproductive Health.